Hello, my name is Megan Shirley. This is a lecture on the Barbarians as given for a course called The Romans and the Celts, Britain. It is a lecture designed for graduate students and provides a certain amount of context regarding certain barbarian groups such as the Gauls, the Celts, and the Germans. Peromita Britannia et statum missa. This is a quote from Tacitus in his histories, which basically means Britannia was conquered and immediately abandoned. The relevance to this lecture is that it is a lecture designed to provide context on behalf of the barbarians who did not leave their own written historical accounts. What we know of these Celtic Britons, we know of from Roman and Greek authors, and some archaeological findings. The fact that they left no written history of their own is a problem for most historians because they did not leave a means for us to translate and to tell their own side of the story, so to speak. And as we all know, that relying on a particular source or group of sources is very problematic, especially if they are on the so-called winning side of history. There's an inherent bias in authors such as Diodorus Siculus, Herodotus, Julius Caesar, even Tacitus, and Cassius Dio. And so it is imperative that we as historians examine all possible aspects of cultures which simply did not leave their own story to be told. That being said, the archaeological findings and the works left behind by these authors do tell us quite a bit about the culture of the barbarian groups. And by barbarian groups, I mean people that are identified either by tribal name or by names such as Gauls, Celts, Germans. All of these last three terms, by the way, were used interchangeably, almost interchangeably by ancient authors. We know things about their political structure. Tacitus Germania describes a democratic society. For the Germans, Julius Caesar gives hints of it in his Gallic Wars when discussing the Gauls' government and how they came together as tribal chieftains to serve under single kings. Example of these kings would have been King Devicus and King Orgetrix, who for a time ruled over tribes in continental Europe and in southern Britain, which is how Caesar came to be aware of the Britons and their connection with the Gauls in Europe. He was also careful to highlight the role of the Druids, which was to pass oral histories down. We know from all of these authors and from most archaeological findings at various hill forts that these groups of people practice what is known as tribal warfare, or really guerrilla warfare. But what we also know is that they had the numbers to back that up. What I mean by that is they controlled vast amounts of territory. Ramon Jimenez, in his book Caesar Against the Celts, estimated that the Gauls controlled over 800 square miles of territory. That is a lot of territory. And we know from Caesar that there were many tribes within this territory. One tribe, the Helvetii, he gave an estimated 368,000 people of being within the Helvetii, but only of which who served in the army was about 98,000, which is still a substantial number considering that was only one tribe. When combined with the knowledge that these barbarian groups used guerrilla warfare tactics, and I'm sorry, I should not use the word barbarian as it has a negative connotation. From now on, I'll simply refer to them as other people, other than the Romans, other than the Greeks. But they did practice what we think of today as guerrilla warfare tactics. They did not attack in groups like the Romans did. They were not very organized in that manner. However, they used their environment to their benefit. Camouflage was something that they were masters of. They would use plant pigments that they would get from plants, most commonly and most well known is woad. They would camouflage themselves and attack unsuspecting groups of their enemies. They used psychological warfare tactics. They were noted for making these sounds which would terrify Roman soldiers all throughout the night. basically leading Roman soldiers to be sleep deprived, confused, and so on and so forth. But they also used the bodies of the fallen enemy to induce terror. By that I mean they were noted by Siculus as even decapitating the heads of their enemies to display them on their mounted horses. Barbarians were also highly mobile. They utilized horses a good bit and were able to move their warriors in such a way that enemies either could not catch them or they would simply outflank them. By that, and that was easy enough to do, especially if you had a group like the Romans who moved in large groups that were not highly mobile. A lot of these Roman group soldiers were not on horseback, they were actually on foot, and they were heavily dependent on formation. But when you have people like the Gauls or Celts coming at you from both sides, you're going to get a lot of confusion in the ranks, leading to heavy losses, if not outright defeat. This is especially important because the Celts and the Gauls were able to combine all of these tactics with great efficiency. These are subjects which will be covered in later modules in this course. Now, in terms of weapons, Celts and Gauls were using very much the same, if not similar, weapons to the Romans. There were some differences in defensive tools, though. Their shields were designed to be more mobile. They were smaller than Roman shields. They were also made of braided reeds or a wicker. They were not metal. In fact, in most findings today, you'll find only the metal bits of these shields survived. More than anything, what I want you all to think about as we go into these next modules is this sort of information, a basic background, if you will, on the Celts, the Gauls, and the Germans, because the ancient Britons that Julius Caesar came into contact with, that Augustus, Caligula, Claudius, Nero, all the later Roman emperors came into contact with these people. They are very much related, both biologically and culturally. There was a trade route. These people were far more civilized than one would think. Have a nice day.